I'm Rod Kasai, and I apologize for the poor lighting and sound. Neither one is exactly my forte, but fond memories. After some thought, it was kind of harder to come up with one than I thought, but I decided to go with one that was more of a catalyst for a lot of other very fond memories. It was just an easier story to tell. That story begins when I was 13 years old. I was in grammar school, and my teacher one day decided to present to the class that she wanted a taker, if you will, for a student to enter a nationwide academic contest with her. A competition that was based on a cultural immersion experience with Japan. Japan has always had one of the better school systems in the world, so it was kind of an academia thing where we were going to take American students and have them live in Japan for 2 weeks, complete with living with a family for a while, sightseeing, time in schools, the whole shebang. For a multitude of reasons, I was always very interested in visiting Japan, so I was excited at the opportunity, but this was an extracurricular thing, and at 13 years old, anything that didn't really count towards schoolwork, I wasn't exactly chomping at the bit to go after. So my teacher presents this to the class. She doesn't really have any takers. At the time, I was a very good student and a pretty strong writer, and my teacher knew this and kind of really pushed for me to do it, even though I was a little hesitant to. She ended up calling my dad, who insisted, and I had to do a lot of research the old-fashioned way. This was before the internet was everywhere. To hit the library, pound the bookshelves, make a bunch of Xerox copies, just scour the encyclopedias, the old school way of doing research. I did 2 drafts of it and really did not want to write a third, to be honest with you. Again, this was all off of school time, so it's not exactly what a 13-year-old is looking forward to doing with his free time. Like a lot of kids at the time, you think you enter a contest or a competition, you've really got no chance at winning. You know, somebody wins these things, it's just never going to be you. So after my second draft and really not wanting to write a third, my father kind of pushed and said, well, you'll only have this opportunity, it costs you nothing, do it. So I did, and sure enough, we ended up as one of 10 finalists for the city of Chicago. Now, the way the competition worked was that the student supplied an essay and an artwork depicting something to do with Japan, and the teacher had to kind of implement lesson plans and things that they would bring back with them as a way of reinforcing teaching on things that they learned during this cultural experience. So as student and teacher team, they were choosing 5 winners from about 5 cities nationwide to go be a part of this experience. And when we found out that we were finalists, it was a little unexpected, but very exciting. I mean, you made it past the first round, which I never thought was going to happen. So we ended up going to the Chicago Board of Education downtown for an interview. And for me, this was at about 11 o'clock in the morning. I'm getting out of school. It's kind of an excused absence day. I get to hang out downtown. I'm already winning as far as I see. So we get there, and this was around April, so it's springtime, and my allergies are killing me. My nose just would not stop running. It was a faucet that day, and while we were in the waiting room, I was continuously blowing my nose, wanting to be ready for this interview, and it just kept wanting to keep running. We got into the interview, of which I was very nervous for, and I noticed that I kept kind of going to my sleeve and attempt to wipe my nose and kind of speak without having to sniffle every other sentence. It didn't really work, and I felt I gave a poor interview. My teacher was interviewed separately, so we got out of there, and then we decided, well, we're going to go and have lunch. So we go downtown Chicago, a restaurant that she knew, and we had a really nice lunch right beside a giant fountain that cascaded 10 feet into the air and so forth. So we were talking about how the interview went. Neither one of us felt all that great about it, and we figured, okay, well, we gave it a shot. We were a finalist. Let's just see what happens. So I remember distinctly that we both got a quarter, made a little wish, and said, "To Japan," and flipped the quarters, and they landed in the fountain. That was that. We finished our meal and we went home. I got out of school a little early that day. There was no sense in going back for about an hour or so, so I just went straight home. and was expecting a phone call to let us know one way or the other whether or not we were going or whether or not we had won, pretty much in limbo for a few hours. And I decided that I was going to try to play it cool. I told everybody to stay off the phone. I was expecting a very big phone call. And after about 20 minutes, I realized I wasn't going to last like that. 10 minutes felt like an hour. So I decided to take my mind off of it and go to my room and maybe read some comic books, try to catch up, and maybe time will go faster that way. That didn't work either. So after hours, which felt like a really long time, the phone finally rings. So I dart out of bed. I run to the phone because I'm still trying to keep it cool. I'm expecting to hear that I'm not going. I pick up the phone, and Junko was very, very, hi, how are you, Rod? Great. We thought you gave a great interview. This, that, or the other. And I'm waiting for the but. I'm waiting for the but we're going to go with someone else kind of thing. But to my surprise, she says, so how'd you like to go to Japan this summer? And I like leapt out of my body and then jumped back in. And I'm trying to, even at 13, I'm trying to play cool. Oh, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I'd like that. So we go over a few details because there was an orientation lunch that was going to be held like the next week. And I hang up the phone, and I just remember jumping up and down and being really ecstatic. So my mom ran out of the room. She's like, "You won." I'm like, "I won." We celebrated. It was like, great. We're going to go to Japan. So school ended, and I ended up leaving. To this day, I remember the date. We left July 11th. My birthday is July the 18th, so I actually turned 14 years old in Kyoto and had the only surprise party that's ever been thrown for me, thrown there. And that is actually another very fond memory, but that story's a little longer to tell. To this day, it's one of the best experiences of my life. I remember vividly that day and all the emotions that kind of went into it. And I was able to take myself halfway around the world at 13 years old on my own merits. And to this day, that's something that I'm very proud of. I had a great time. I learned a lot. It was my first real time away from home, and to do it in such a big way, it's just part of those things that are very exciting about being young, and everything's kind of a first. It was a big first to have, and a time I'll never forget. So that's my story. That's my fond memory. I have a lot of them. And this was, like I said, a catalyst for so many more that came during that 2 week time. I stayed with families. I had peers from other cities that we also kind of got to learn from and cause a little mischief and have fun while overseas. And it was just an amazing, amazing experience, and one that I'll treasure forever. So that's my story, and thanks for listening.